The 49ers held one final practice of these OTAs, and they saved their best for last, especially the social media team. Yes, that is Brock Purdy to De'Zhaun Stribling, the rookie, lighting up the field. You know, I'll tell you what, I was on the practice field this week. De'Zhaun has got real juice. 2 deep passes he got behind the 49ers secondary on Wednesday, and when you look at De'Zhaun Stribling's college career, it was a lot of short plus deep stuff, nothing really in between at Ole Miss. But before at Oklahoma State, he just wore out the intermediate section of the field. Looks like the 49ers unlocked Oklahoma State De'Zhaun Stribling to close spring practice. Kyle Shanahan obviously happy with the work that the 49ers put in. 100% attendance rate for everybody off of the left squad list. And the only reason Kyle Shanahan would cancel veteran minicamp would be if he was happy with the installations that the 49ers have already gotten in. There is a finite amount of work that you can do in the spring in shorts without pads. It's not real football. Nick Bosa even hinted that some of the D linemen's work might be counterproductive now because there's no physicality. So as long as you can keep guys healthy, and the 49ers successfully did that, and if you could see some of your rookies really show that they belong, right? Show that they've got some of that it factor early on. And the 49ers definitely saw that from De'Zhaun Stribling. They definitely saw that from Kalon Black, who looks fast, the rookie running back out of Indiana. If you get that done, you've essentially checked the boxes and you can move on to training camp. And that's what is next for the 49ers on their practice field in Santa Clara. The wide receivers ended this OTA session on fire. And yes, that includes Mike Evans, the walking Hall of Famer, who said this about the 49ers roster.
So that's what I really want. And just let these guys know that, not to take this shit for granted, because like you never know, what could happen. And our roster is a great roster. We stack up with the best of the best in the league. So just not taking these opportunities for granted.
Do not take the assembly of talent that the 49ers have on this offensive side of the ball for granted. Mike Evans certainly isn't. And when you look at the receiver room, this was a primary weakness of the offense last year, and Brock Purdy still guided it into top 5 territory. And we had said if he just finds guys who can separate more on the outside, they could be even better. Well, you've got Evans now, who's catching a ton of those outbreaking routes over the course of this spring. You've got De'Zhaun Stribling getting behind defenses, not as a number 1 X wide receiver, not even maybe as the 49ers primary slot guy. That might be Christian Kirk. That shows that the 49ers have depth in the receiver room. You know who also looked really good this spring? Healthy Ricky Pearsall. And then, of course, there is Jacob Cowing, another player on whom Mike Evans showered some praise. In totality, this is a deep wide receiver room with varying skill sets. It's something that the 49ers have not been able to say in recent seasons. Guys like Jacob Cowing can give the 49ers lightning out of the slot. Players like Mike Evans are the thunder on the outside. De'Zhaun Stribling, I would say, is a hybrid of both. He's got 4.3 speed. We saw him get behind the defense multiple times this spring. But the best of De'Zhaun Stribling, what the 49ers are most excited about, hasn't even had a chance to showcase itself because they think he was the best blocker in this 2026 draft class, and they think that his physicality is actually his calling card. The guy also only dropped 1 pass while making 55 catches last year at Ole Miss. So De'Zhaun Stribling's got very, very good hands. It almost makes it a joke that those viral social media accounts were saying that he bobbled something in the video that I posted at the start of rookie minicamp. Gives you an idea that most people have zero idea what they're talking about. This guy has one of the highest floors out of any rookie wide receiver because he catches the ball, he can block, he's physically dependable, and we saw the speed on display here over OTAs. You know who binds it all together? An elite quarterback, one of the best in football. Just listen to what Mike Evans had to say again about Brock Purdy.
Love Brock, man. He's a big reason why I came here. I said that in my initial Zoom call with you guys. Throws a really great ball. I'm getting the timing down with him now. super smart. He's about his business too. Comes to work every single day. He's a quiet guy, but me and him talk, about not just football, but life. And really cool guy. Look forward to having a great connection with him this year.
So you have to ask yourself, who knows more about the quarterback position? Mike Evans, a future Hall of Famer who's posted 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons, matched only by Jerry Rice in NFL history, somebody who's won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady, or your random Twitter troll. I'll go with the former. Mike Evans appreciates what this 49ers roster is all about. He put his money where his mouth is by signing with San Francisco, and now they are significantly better, significantly more talented on the offensive side of the ball than they were last year, when the offense really wasn't a weakness for the 49ers in relative terms over the vast majority of the year. Now, the offense itself had weaknesses, like a lack of explosiveness, like a lack of separation on the outside, but those are the ones that the 49ers went to try to address this offseason. They all go hand in hand. If you can separate more, especially with your ex-receiver on the outside, there will be more room to operate in the run game. And the 49ers, who had a woeful amount of explosive runs in 2025, should have more of those. Christian McCaffrey looks ready to go, but it also looks like Christian McCaffrey is going to have some capable help. Kalon Black, I will say, was fun to watch. The pads haven't come on yet. And a lot like De'Zhaun Stribling, I would say that Kalon Black's strengths should shine more once the pads do come on, because he was a guy who had over 1,000 yards rushing for Indiana last year. Over 600 of those yards came after contact. Obviously, he couldn't deliver that over the course of OTAs because it was a non-contact period of practice for the 49ers. But he could show off his speed, which was something that I think people questioned since he had been snubbed from the NFL Combine. And everyone recognized immediately that Kalon Black is very fast. Just ask George Kittle for his first impression.
Very fast. Very fast and very mature. What is he, 25? I like old rookies because, they're ready to play. And you don't have to go through that immaturity part of the start, which, it's just when you play with mature players, they kind of understand, the sense of urgency is what I would say. I think they're just ready for it. And that's been really cool.
Now, the defensive side of the ball and the performance there, much more of a wild card entering 2026 for the 49ers. We know that the offensive floor is high. The fact that Purdy was able to guide it into top 5 status, even without receivers, means that fans don't have a whole lot to worry about. Of course, the 49ers want to push that into the stratosphere. Of course, they want to be the best offense in football, and I think they've given themselves a chance at that. But where will the defense be? Because it has languished for several years now. Raheem Morris enters the 49ers building, inheriting a unit that I think turned several things around philosophically last year under Robert Saleh after that defense-heavy 2025 draft, but the injuries just decimated the 49ers' shot at real statistical improvement. So the 49ers now have to find a way to A, stay healthy, and then B, bridge the gaps that might have been there even had they been healthy in 2025. One area of question seems to be the safety position, where the 49ers have 3 firm contenders right now, or at least firm contenders who are holdovers from last year at a starting safety spot. It's Malik Mustafa, that's Jair Brown, and that's Marquise Siegel. But Raheem Morris is a new defensive coordinator, and defensive coordinators can get particular about their safeties, especially if the coordinator in question was a safety during his playing days. Here's what Morris had to say about the position.
I think that's the most important thing. I think it's spots, right? Nobody ever gets comfortable in the National Football League. Coaches, players, and nobody. I think you want to go out there and have high-level competition across the board. I think it's less about, starting spots for coaches. It's more about roles and what kind of roles can people do to help you win. And I think people finding their roles, whether you call Stout a starter or not, he's a starter. Being that nickel role that he stepped into last year and played at a very high level, I think those things matter. Whether you talk about the safeties and how they're going to play and what their role is going to be, I think you want those guys to go out there and compete at a very high level and give you everything that they can. And they've shown a lot of good things, despite what might have been said about these guys in the past. And I'm really excited to watch those guys play.
So, first of all, Raheem Morris emphasized that both spots are in the midst of competition for the 49ers, which means that nobody's going to be given a starting role. He also, though, really emphasized that, first of all, Raheem Morris emphasized that both safety spots are in the midst of competition, which means no one is just going to be handed one because they had one in years prior. That is significant, but I think even more significant is what Morris went on to say, talking about different roles on this 49ers defense, because I anticipate more adaptability than ever from the 49ers secondary, just given Raheem Morris's background. For example, the 49ers, to match up with a lot of these big tight ends, they've had a big nickel position. They've had a safety move down into a big nickel spot because you need somebody with a little bit more height to cover the tight ends. And I know the Rams ran a ton of this, 13 personnel last year. It was a safety who moved down into big nickel last year. Jair Brown first, Jason Pinnock after him. I do think that moving forward, the 49ers would love to have a little bit more wiggle and coverage ability out of that big nickel position, which is why they signed a cornerback like Nate Hobbs, whose best football has come on the inside, not on the outside, to potentially man that role. In a question about safeties, you heard Raheem Morris. He invoked Upton Stout's name, and Upton Stout is technically a cornerback. He'd be the 49ers' small nickel cornerback. Obviously, somebody that you'd categorize as a starter after his really, really good rookie year. But it's about more than just what Upton Stout can do. And we know that he's great in run support. We know he can blitz. We know he actually leverages his smaller size, I think, to get around blocks. He's got a lot of quickness and he's got a lot of desire and want to. But it's about what you can do to flex these positions, to counter various skill sets and sizes on the opposite side of the football. You look at bigger slot receivers like a De'Zhaun Stribling, like a Jawan Jennings, who's now on the 49ers schedule when they play the Vikings in Mexico City. You do need to have a little bit more adaptability from your secondary, and I think that's what Raheem Morris is angling for. San Francisco's added 2 veteran safeties in recent weeks. Both played for Cal, actually, Patrick McMorris and then Ashton Davis, a veteran who actually has more games started, over 30 games started under his belt than any other safety in the 49ers building. A few years ago, 2022, the 49ers signed Tashawn Gibson Sr. right before the start of the year. He was older than Ashton Davis, who's 29. Tashawn Gibson was in his 30s at the time, and a lot of people thought he might be washed up. Well, it turns out that he started for a couple years for San Francisco, notched a bunch of interceptions, and was really the final piece of a good 2022 49ers defense. They finished number 1 in the league, so I guess we could say it was a great 49ers defense. San Francisco needs to notch more interceptions. They've been near the bottom of the league for a while after being near the top of the league back when Gibson was around as their safety. Of course, a lot of that's going to start with the pass rush, which was really, really bad last year, really injured last year. It's where players like Romello Height are extremely exciting. But it's got to continue with how the safeties can prey on the football. So we'll look to see if Ashton Davis or Patrick McMorris can leave their mark on a secondary in transition, one that's obviously going to be asked to do a whole lot of adaptable stuff under Raheem Morris, which leaves the slate relatively blank as we enter training camp. Bottom line, though, is that the 49ers, they've got some massive additions coming this year. We talk about them adding the free agents, Mike Evans, Dre Greenlaw. We talk about the trade addition of Bosa Odighizuwa. That's huge for the interior defensive line and the pass rush. But I said at the start of the offseason, and I'll maintain this now, the 2 biggest additions of the 49ers from 2025 to 2026 are Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. They didn't have either of those 2 guys for the majority of 2025, and it showed. They're 2 of the best players in football, and they are returning this year. So you got Trent, a walking Hall of Famer, talking about Mike Evans, a walking Hall of Famer. It really is an embarrassment of riches for the 49ers. If you go up and down this roster, they've got more A-listers, more foundational pillars than they've ever had. It's arguably the best roster in football. They're going to have a chance to prove it. Now, guys have to stay healthy. The Rams obviously are going to have something to say about that as well, especially after they added Myles Garrett, but they did lose Jared Verse as they did that. They've also added Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson this offseason. So the Rams, who felt they languished against the pass last year, have made very, very firm moves to take a step forward against it and their division rivals with the 49ers. But what we saw out there with the perfect 100% attendance rate during spring for San Francisco was an eminently talented roster filled with a lot of exciting young players, but anchored by bona fide walking Hall of Famers. And, maybe all tied together by Brock Purdy, who's going to have his chance to make a case at the Hall of Fame over the next decade. It certainly has started well for Brock Purdy. He's the number 1 rated quarterback in all of football since joining the league in 2022. But I think the best way to wrap up the 49ers offseason practices is by hearing from Trent Williams, who re-signed with the 49ers earlier this offseason. He's got 2 more years now under contract, and it sounds like these will be his last 2 years in the NFL.
Did it cross your mind that this would be the last contract you sign, or are you still? Yeah. So where did you envision this being it, or
probably?
Yeah. What's that thought like then when you?
It's scary. It's scary. I'm toying between the idea of going till I can't no more and just, leaving while I still got some good product left, and not getting ran out the league. So, it's been a long time, and had a daughter that she was born a few months before I got drafted. So, I'm going on year 17. She's turning 17.
So just like Trent Williams, the 49ers saved their best this spring for last. July can't get here soon enough. I want some training camp. I'll hold you over until then, though. As long as you hit the subscribe button and hit that like button too, maybe leave a comment. We'll talk to you very soon.